Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. Just a few questions, if the gentle lady from Taguig will allow it.
I will allow with pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The NCCA is an executive agency for coordinating and grant-giving agency for the preservation, development, and promotion of Philippine arts and culture. Would that be correct?
Correct, yes.
Yes, Your Honor. I get a bit very worried about the fact that you remember, I forget the name now, but many, many years ago, I read an article that says we are culturally damaged. We have a damaged culture. Do you remember that? I think
I remember that.
I read that in the
Maybe
Atlantic Charter on a plane, and I really fell off my seat because she was describing the Philippines as a damaged culture. Have we ever addressed that problem in the NCCA? I know that is a problem for education, but also NCCA, because you are supposed to set policy directions on that. In fact, you're given a budget of 1.5 billion, and a lot of people are always asking you for grants. But what is the vision of the committee, of the department? You know, Mr. President, sometimes we're appointed to a position and we take the position, but we don't do anything about the position. We just go through the motions of the position. You have to do something about the position. Your position exists to give the people an idea of how they can ambition to make our country a little better. Would that be correct, Your Honor?
that is correct, Mr. President.
Thank you. I'm glad you agree.
Just
Yes.
to a quick response to the question before that, what is the vision? The vision really is to improve the research on culture.
James
so
Fallows was the man. James Fallows. See, I'm not that old.
Paki-check nyo na lang yan. Yeah. So anyway, as I was saying, the vision is to improve on the research on culture, that they may disseminate this.
Research.
Research.
There are, how many indigenous cultures do we have? Ifugao, Igorot, the Ibanag,
131,
the Ibaloy,
Mr. President.
131.
Yes.
How do we produce? It's like having a national language. I remember the debate in the 1935 Constitution on a national language. But I think you're talking form. What we're talking about is matters like work ethic, like yung bahala na, like yung mga values natin na dapat ikinorek na matagal na. Kanina tinatanong ko yung Human Rights Commission na dapat yung mga panalo natin, ilagay natin, panalo dun sa laban sa drugs, no? At nagkakaroon tayo ng culture of fear na wala tayong kaya, wala tayong ibubuga. And I dare say sometimes even the President has a tendency to say that na wala tayong kaya, di natin kaya in China. To me, I despise that. I don't like it. But I'm just one.
Mr. President, through DepEd, that is the channel where they intend to improve the dissemination of these values for our youth.
When you start talking about DepEd has over almost 600,000 teachers now, and they're an administrative machinery that they're running in order to stay in place. With all the disasters, they have to build schools, they have problems with their teachers, we have to prepare them for the future of IT. What I'm talking about is more basic than that. It is the soul, the lakas diwa of the people. We were taught that in law school. I remember Dean Crisolito Pascual, the Blue Chucks. You know, I remember those things. And what is important is that we propagate that in our soul, we are, sinasabi nga ni Mr. Marcos nung araw, although at least he tried, we are a Maharlika culture. We are a people of royal blood. But I don't think he meant royal in terms of title. He meant of dignity. So, kung ngayon pa lang, alam nyo, if you attended the speeches of the Gokongwei children, ibang klase. They talk about the work ethic. They talk about, well, they were being raised, they saw their father was not interested in form, he was interested in growing his business, creating more jobs, and saying, you know, you won't be able to do anything unless you work hard. I'll say it in Chinese because that's one of my favorite ones. Bo choy kang, bo tan cha. You don't work, you don't eat. Eh dito, because I was in a funeral on my third wake last night. I was with Segundo Romero, my fraternity brother, and we were talking about our young people. And he said, you know, our young people are trained to solve personal problems. They're not trained to solve community problems. Meaning to say there's an innermost thing in our hearts and soul that will allow us to get up and go and solve it. I don't know whether NCCA is conscious of how difficult their task is, but how challenging it is. I would gladly take it. I'll give you an example. I became mayor of Olongapo. I attacked the culture. I said, what this country needs is not just a change of men, but a change in men. Magbabago kayo ng politiko ninyo, hindi naman magbabago ang kalooban natin. Wala tayong sense of country, wala tayong sense of nation. Kanya-kanya tayo, Ilocano, Kapampangan, Bisaya. Ano ba ginagawa natin sa NCCA to propagate na magkaroon tayo talaga ng isang diwa ng tunay na Pilipino? Or let me be very frank and brutal, if I may, and I'm not getting very happy with this conversation. Ano ba ang ginawa ng NCCA last night that you can call a game changer?
Anong nagawa niyo recently na considered game changer project? Mr. President, with the limited budget they have, which is not even
There you go.
100.
You just said it. With the limited budget we have.
Ako naman po, Mr. President.
No,
nagsabi
I'm just
doon.
saying, we have to catch ourselves. I'm sorry, I hope I'm not being disrespectful. I just want to say na pagka sinabi mo sa Pinoy, oh, gagawin natin to. Naku sir, mahirap yan. Wala kaming pera. Mayaman masyado yung kalaban. Hindi natin kaya. I don't care about your budget. I had very limited budget in tourism, and when I took over Subic, I hardly had a budget. But we utilize the culture of our people, the values of our people. Bawal ang tamad, lalong bawal ang tanga. For years, we have been perpetrated by one tamad. There is no Johnny Appleseed. There is no John Wayne, if you will. I think the forebears of Teddy Boy Locsin successfully created this kind of culture upon us. We have this tit for tat. We have a very friendly tit for tat with the Secretary of Foreign Affairs. But that's precisely what I'm saying. You know, give you another example. Jess Paredes texted me before the Ateneo USD game and he said, are you going to the Katipuneros versus España fight tonight? Katipunan versus... There is some sense of pride there. Pero pag sinabi natin ang Pinoy, kaagad, hindi pa nagsisimula, talo na kaagad. Everybody is wowing. I'll just use that as an example. Ted Baldwin is being heralded as a great coach, but what he inculcated is discipline. Even the coach of USC makes his players work 5 hours to get to where they are and define who they are. The PMA says, ano yun, General Bato? Courage, integrity, loyalty. Eh, nakalagay yung slogan na yun, pero sinasa puso ba yan, ate? I hope I'm not being cantankerous here, but I really feel very strongly about this. I think our people really need to be more conscious, and more advertising should be made of the fact that we can as a people.
And this representation fully agrees. The only reason I mentioned the limited budget is because, like His Honor, I've always wanted NCCA to take a stronger role to participate in nation building.
But then the cultural value answer there would be, with the limited budget I have, I will show you I created a lot of things, so next year give me a bigger budget.
Well, I was prepared to explain what they've done. Some
go ahead.
projects of which I personally am very familiar with and very proud of. One of which is the cultural mapping all over the country. They have empowered all sectors of every community. Well, the goal is to empower all sectors of every community. I know this because we did it in Taguig City. You empower the senior citizens, the youth leaders, the historians, the academe to come together and trace all their cultural and local heritage sites, both tangible and intangible. And then from there, you can create your own narrative. And this is all supposed to be deposited in our national repository so that then we can take pride in both local and national heritage treasures that we have. So that is one. I won't go into the budget of that, but I was saying that is a nice, serious program. The other one in which Senator Lauren and I are both very proud of is the School of Living Traditions. So this is where, let me just read it to be more specific and accurate. A School of Living Tradition is one where a living master, culture bearer, or culture specialist teaches skills and techniques of doing a tradition or craft. So many of these are dying, but you also see the hard work, the discipline that went into making this person what they are. So just two examples, no?
Yeah.
I mean, I have a list of other things, but two examples of the kind of programs that they have. But I understand completely where His Honor is coming from, because I do believe that we need that narrative, no, that will give every single Filipino that sense of pride, that sense of hope, and that sense of their need to work hard for their own future, for their own.
Far be it from my mind to, in this representation, to belittle NCCA. I was Secretary of Tourism. I know what they were trying to do. In fact, we gave, at that time, 50 million pesos to the NCCA to make sure that the Ifugao culture, especially the Banawe rice terraces, would be preserved. And I never got a report. From what I hear, many of the Ifugao young people have gone down because there is no future in protecting the Banawe rice terraces. They want to go down and have their own cell phones and get into the party of this country. But really, when you say cultural mapping, that's a step in the right direction. You have to have the baselines, of course. But in reality, it must start right away with perhaps, I don't know how to do it, but certainly the leadership of NCCA, maybe talking with the president, can actually make the president the spokesman of the kind of people we want. I always tell our people, whether I'm in the Red Cross or chairman of SBMA or tourism, we have to define who we are.
Agreed.
That's why I was asking General Bato or Senator Bato de la Rosa, ano ba ang motto ng that's definition. And our people cannot define who we are. If we let others define who we are, then we will become cultural pygmies, intellectual, pygmies, so to speak, na we cannot ambition. There are plenty of, I've often heard our people say, oh, galing na Singapore. Well, lit nila, pero talo tayo sa lahat, across the board. They win more medals than us. You're an athlete. The lady is an athlete. They're ahead of IT. They're ahead of research and drugs. They are totally disciplined. See, these are things that we can be eclectic about. We can get the Japanese and say the Japanese got the Leica camera and turned it into a Nikon, or the Ford of America and turned it into a Toyota. And to my mind, that's what's lacking. There is that glue that is missing, and that's why we have an NCCA. The arts. The other day, I gave a speech at the Red Cross for an international convention on detention prisoners. On prison health is community health. And when I got out, the prisoners or the detention prisoners of Tagaytay came out with paintings that I thought were quite good. I suspected they were copied. But nonetheless, I bought some just to encourage. And I bought the paintings also to the party I had with the ambassadors at night, and I got the ambassadors to buy 3 more paintings. Now, when you multiply all these little things, you enhance the art of the time. And the hook there was, kita mo kahit na preso ito, kung nagkaroon ito ng self-worth, baka hindi nakulong ito. All it needs is for us to take notice of our inner soul, our inner assets, our inner minds, our inner attitudes and values. And I don't know whether the commission, I hope they do, I pray to God they do, has an idea of what that is. Let me just share to you one of my old griefs, if you will. I'm a history and government major before I became a lawyer. But we always celebrated the fall of Bataan, where we were invaded because the Americans were here. But we nonetheless fought. There may be 2 or 3 Medal of Honor winners from the Philippine side on that score. And yet, sabi ko, bakit ba ginawa niyong murderer si Lapu-Lapu? Again, when the Spanish lost Magallanes, who was a Portuguese, they decided, well, di tayo pwedeng patalo dyan, babalikan natin yan, and we have to show that we are superior. And so, when you do a little research, and I hope, I'm not banking on that I will be correct, no, but I just wanted to foist it upon the public. We are one of the first peoples to beat the colonial invader from the West. Now, if the New York people got a statue of the Statue of Liberty from the French because the American Revolution fired off the idea that made them destroy the divine right of kings, and they gave the Statue of Liberty, you don't even know if it's male, female, they call her Lady Liberty, don't know if she's pregnant or is just fat, he has the light of liberty, but it became a symbol. You know, give me your tired, hobbled masses, di ba? And it became a status symbol to be an American. That America can do anything. You know, land of opportunity, land of milk and honey. But tayo, wala niyan. So, when I went to Korea, I got the Koreans, tataka sila why I went to the statue of the Filipino soldier who fell in Korea. Every time. Finally, I got them to say, bakit hindi natin tuluyan? I'll build a monument for the Filipino soldier and the Korean soldier. But, kayo nakalimutan nyo, you should build, the reason why you're so advanced today is because part of the contingent international was the people from the Philippines who joined others, and they fought and died here. In fact, Conrado Yap, province mate of mine, died here. And so they said, what can we do? And I said, before we build the Korean soldier and the Filipino soldier, let's build the statue of Lapu-Lapu. And later on, you can ask the National Historical Commission. They got very upset that I dared put a statue of Lapu-Lapu in Rizal Park. And yet, I said, this is the sentinel of freedom. The first Asian to beat the colonial invader from the West. NCCA could have picked up on that, or the National Historical Commission could have picked up on that. They could put out calendars and tell the story na hindi siya killer. Nay shall invaders trample our sacred shores. Sa mandulupig hindi ka pasisiil. And if you did that, then perhaps may feeling na panalo tayo. But it remains there. Senator Dillon and I inaugurated that statue about 10 years ago. And that is exactly my point. I'm trying to explicitate what I'm trying to say to NCCA in an example, in a manner that perhaps we can change the attitude of our people that we are not defeatists, we are winners. And that is why I ask these questions. I know it's coming from left field, but then we cannot drop the ball on this one. You're an athlete, Your Honor. You know that we cannot drop the ball on that one. So having said that, Your Honor, I would like to see, if not now, next year, I'd like to see programs where the NCCA would tackle the sociological, the cultural, the physical, the psychological way upon which we could, propagate a mindset among our young, and that has to start with NCCA, and work with CHED and work with Department of Education and inculcate that in the minds slowly of the Filipino. If the Japanese who can't speak English beat the Russians, and you've heard me say this before, 35 years after the Meiji Restoration, when they were still wearing kimonos, and they had blades and they had wooden ships, when they saw the steel ships of Commodore Perry, they decided, tatalunin tayo niyan, so kailangan magtayo tayo ng sarili natin mga barko. And they did. And they decimated the Russians in 1905 in the Battle of Tsushima. And what makes a country like that tick like that? And when they were decimated in World War II, again, 20 years later, what did they do? They hosted the Olympics, which is the symbol of prosperity of any first world country. Again, the gentle lady is an athlete, and you know what I'm talking about. So, obviously, there has got to be more than just trophies or we did this, we did that. But the bottom line is, how did that create change? Do we have, you can sponsor a specimen, students debating this in the universities, have a championship contest, and say why we're a great country, and you can compare it with other countries and why we have a lot to go, because we have to rally our country. The country is beginning, even in rice, we never rose. We stuck to where we are, and now may problema tayo sa bigas. So, to my mind, it's about time that we start getting into it. Again, a final example, we're both from UP Law School. When I was in UP, there was no such thing as UP fight. There was no such thing as, Universidad ng Pilipinas, matalino, matatapang.
Sa amin may UP fight na.
No, wala pa.
Hindi,
Wala
hindi,
pa.
athlete ako nag-UP fight kami. Kami
Okay,
meron,
okay
wala
lang,
lang
pero
ang kanta.
there's
Pero
no
yung UP fight meron.
community effort. No cheer rallies.
Wala
Like
naman
one big
talaga.
fight.
Oo.
Kaya nung bandang huli, no, matalo na tayo doon sa UP. Sigaw ko na, hindi na UP fight. One big fight na last few seconds. Because, wala eh. I'm glad to see my brother from Upsilon there, UP, Pamantasan ng Pilipinas. And we have to make sure that we change this attitude. Tingnan, uste. Lalo na ang uste, nag-cheer pa. Pinalitan pa nila yung pangalan ng USC. Uste. Ano yung uste?
Mr. President, if I may, just
Yes, of course.
this was just given to me to put on the record regarding honoring and making Lapu-Lapu more word of mouth for especially for the younger ones. Renaming Mactan Airport as Lapu-Lapu Airport. Number 2, 2,000 peso bill in Philippine currency featuring Lapu-Lapu. And third, a museum for Lapu-Lapu in Cebu.
I think Lapu-Lapu will be good to be shown that way, but Lapu-Lapu is more of a story that they can adapt. It's not a symbol alone, Lapu-Lapu. To me, what struck me is sa Mandulupig di ka pasisiil or nasal invaders trample their secrets. That is the story that you must project, not the symbol. Hindi na mag-identify yung millennial na nakasuot siya, na may dala siyang kampilan. Ang identification doon is can do. Can do. So, I'm glad that you recognize it. I would really do it. These are the statues of liberties of the country, for example. I'll give you a marketing orientation. I was in Procter & Gamble. So, you have Lapu-Lapu on one side, the first Asian to beat the colonial invader, and you put the story, he resisted. He fought. All right? That means it's innate in the people's heart and mind, in the Filipino, that he is a lover of freedom. Sa Mandulupig, di ka pasisiil. And when you go to Rizal on the other side, he is the guy, our Victor Hugo, if you will, who created all these ideas that we were being abused by the frailes, and he came out by being a very intelligent man who could speak several languages and could hold tall in spite of his 5'2" frame against the Europeans. And stood tall. So if you do that, then you are defining already what kind of a people we are. We have no definition. You know, I can talk about that cook who won the Medal of Honor. Their position was being overrun. And he was in a mess. He went to the machine gun and he started shooting. And he got the Medal of Honor from America. But you know, that story is about bravery. Simple yan. A little picture. The story must be the whole character of a nation. Matalino, yung sinasabi ng UP, matatapang, masisipag, hindi papatalo kahit kanino. Sa UST lang papatalo, saka sa Ateneo. Pero di ba nanalo rin tayo later on? Who is that waving at me? All right. Oh, there's the distinguished gentleman from UST, Joel Villanueva, who knows how to handle the defeat. To him, it's a learning session. So, Your Honor, I just wanted to put my 2 cents in here. Naglalabas lang ako ng hinaing.
Mr. President, His Honor's statements are very well taken. I will assure His Honor that I will follow up on this. In fact, if I may, I would like to host a dinner so that your ideas could be taken note of, and we'll ask them for a progress report. I think it's a great idea, Mr. President, and I feel like it's well taken on my end. I will assure you that I will have the agencies propose projects to pursue this.
Well, knowing you, you're not trying to flatter me because
No.
flattery, you know, when I get
No, 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 no.
But I know, but I appreciate the comments from you. But I think it is time now that we put into the NCCA that their task is bigger
Agree.
than what they think.
Totally agree, Mr. President.
It's bigger than all of us. And I think it's about time that we turn this country around.
Agree.
Thank you, Your Honor, and that's what I'd like to just say. Thank you.
Thank you.